Over the past 2 weeks, the poster child for overheated hydrogen-powered electric vehicle stocks, Nikola, it's come roaring back, 1834. For those of you who don't remember, Nikola is the speculative EV play with a hydrogen kicker that came public over the summer via reverse merger with a special purpose acquisition company, or SPAC. The stock initially caught fire, and by September, the company had made a transformative deal with General Motors to collaborate on an electric pickup truck, but to do much more than that. Then, a few days later, a short seller published a scathing research report accusing Nikola and its founder of outrageous acts of fraud. So then the stock plunged below 20 bucks, and for a while, that's where it stayed. But Nikola brought in new management. They kept working on their truck and their hydrogen technology, and even after all the bad press, GM hasn't pulled the plug on their partnership, though we lack clarity on the current relationship. We also need clarity on partnerships that could build out a much-needed hydrogen network, and what help the government might even give to lower the cost of hydrogen. So is it time to take this company seriously again, given how much this market loves EV and hydrogen fuel cells? Let's take a fresh look. It's a fresh look with Mark Russell. He's the new president and CEO of Nikola. Get a better sense of what's happening. Mr. Russell, welcome to MadMoney.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Love to be here talking about hydrogen.
Of course. All right. So, Mark, tell me, after kind of a, let's say, tumultuous period, why you are the person to take Nikola into the promised land of maybe the greenest fuel out there, hydrogen.
Well, the whole team here is excited about hydrogen. That's what we've been focused on for several years now here. We think hydrogen is part of the solution for a zero-emission future.
Right. But then remember, there were some issues that occurred. Issues that occurred that made it so that we don't even know if your GM deal is going to happen. That could expire soon, the pact with GM. And there were obviously issues that I think people felt were signs of fraud. A truck that was sent down a hill to show that the company got an engine that worked that turned out to be actually, say, suboptimal in describing what Nikola does.
Well, Jim, we have several trucks that work. We have fuel cell trucks that work. We have our first battery truck that now is on the dyno and has been on the track. The Nikola Tray, which was being finished up in Germany, and the production prototypes. We have a number of trucks that work. We haul beer on public roads for Anheuser-Busch. You know, a few seconds on Google, you find that video.
Oh, absolutely.
So we have a number of prototypes that work, and we're focused on the future now, going forward.
Okay, how can you get the price of hydrogen down to make it so it's viable?
Well, the key to getting the price of hydrogen down, Jim, is the price of electricity. And on that front, what people need to focus on is the price of green electricity. The electricity that's coming from wind, it's coming from solar. That's the price that you need to focus on. We can make hydrogen for about a decimal move on the cost of the electricity, depending on a few other factors. So if you can get electricity at 2 cents a kilowatt hour, you can make hydrogen for $2 a kilogram, which is way below the current retail price, as you know.
But do you have enough money on hand to have that happen? That's going to take a long time, right? Is that a 2030 issue, 2025? And does Nikola have enough money to see that vision out, particularly if the GM deal does not come to fruition?
Yeah, our current plan is based on what we ended the quarter with, which we announced in our earnings call. We got about $900 million on cash at that point. That's enough to fund our operations through this year, next year, on into 22. We've been upfront all along that we would do one more tranche of equity raise that we would need to do before we got to a self-sustaining run rate. We'll do that sometime next year when conditions are right. So we do have the funds, we have the team, we have the partners and the ecosystem to support it. We don't believe that hydrogen is a 2030 or even a 2025 solution. We've been dedicated now for several years to bringing hydrogen trucks and hydrogen stations to the world in 2023.
So you don't buy into the skepticism that one of the most wealthy people in the world, it's built a great empire, Tesla, that Elon Musk thinks that this is a fuel cell and not a fuel cell?
Well, he's partially correct on his analysis. Battery vehicles are super efficient, and we plan to make and sell those. The Nikola Tray that we're bringing to the market next year is a battery vehicle. It works great for short haul. The problem here is long haul. Mm-hmm. How do you get big things long distances? That's the problem. Batteries don't do that very well because of energy density, and that's just physics. Batteries are still super heavy compared to how much energy is in there. Well, to go further than that with something really heavy, you need hydrogen.
Well, how about a partnership, say, with a BP or Royal Dutch? Both very forward companies. BP is not the company of old. They would be natural partners to be able to do hydrogen fueling stations.
Yeah, those are two companies that have been very forward thinking and looking at a hydrogen future. In fact, Shell's joined a consortium that we've helped put together to make sure the fueling protocols are standard around the world, which is important to make sure any vehicle can fuel in any station, unlike in electricity.
But you're not able to say whether you have a partnership pending with BP or Royal Dutch, or being able to say what's going to happen to GM when the deal can expire. They can finalize. If they don't finalize it by December 3, they can pull out.
Well, we can't comment on continuing discussions, Jim, but we're interested in GM's Hydrotech fuel cell system. It's very interesting to us. We're interested in their Ultium battery system. Okay. Both of those things are interesting to us, and we continue to talk to them about those things.
All right, let's talk about previous management. I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, that you co-owned an entity with Trevor Milton called T&M Residual, owns 39 million shares. I understand that you extended your lockup. There's a very big lockup coming up, the lockup expiration, that you've extended the period that you don't want to sell, especially the 39 million shares in the entity that you co-own. But what happens if Milton decides to sell? He owns an awful lot of stock. I mean, I would feel like that his 92 million shares might be free to trade. I don't know how much is locked up. I just worry people will listen, they'll want to buy hydrogen, and they might run into a gauntlet of stock that is thrown down by Trevor Milton.
Yeah, I manage those T&M shares, and then we have a bunch of strategic partners who have taken big positions in the company. Many of them have joined our board of directors, Hanwha, CNH, Bosch, people like that, controlling a lot of shares. A number of those folks have agreed to extend their lockup to the end of April, May 1. So I think it's 135 million shares that have extended their lockup that actually would have otherwise expired in the 1st of December.
How about those 92 million shares that Trevor's free to trade next week? I mean, do we have any assurances from him? It doesn't seem like well, it's up to him, obviously, but do you have any assurances that he might want to hold on here for the long term?
Can't comment for Trevor, of course, but we believe that as we execute on our milestones and on our business plan, we're going to reward our long-term focused shareholders.
Okay,
and that's our focus is on the long term.
How's the Badger doing? We're kind of excited about the Badger.
Well, the Badger is a cool truck. I think it's a cool truck. It's a truck I'm interested in personally.
It's in the repertoire.
Well, it has to have a business case, Jim. It's got to be able to be something that makes sense for our shareholders. And we've got to have a partner because it isn't in our core plan. If you look at our core plan, that's about heavy trucks and hydrogen. The Badger isn't in the core plan, which is why we said from the beginning, it takes a partner. So if we have a partner, it's in play. If we don't have a partner, it's not.
Would you agree with me that it would really help for Nikola to have GM for validity? In other words, if GM owns a chunk of you, it lends the bank, it lends backing, lends credibility. It would be easier to sell stock to be able to raise money so you don't have to think about next year. Now, you might say, Jim, will you stop? You're just trying to pry this out of me. No, actually, I think a lot of people really hope that you have that relationship with GM, and I'm trying to fuel that hope with legitimacy and reality.
Well, I can't comment on that. We like the fuel cell.
Mary
we like
Barr,
the battery.
No, Mary, you can't just say, hey, listen, I just talked to Mary. It looks pretty good. I wouldn't worry. How about some reassurance? Reassurance is always good.
Can't do that, Jim. When we have something to tell you, we'll let you know.
Well, I hope you come on the show when you have it, because I think it could be very exciting for people. Anyway, look, I think that, you know how I feel about hydrogen. It is the fuel of the future. You are the truck fuel of the future. I want it to work, but I don't want to get people's hopes up, because then what happens is insider selling starts, and Mary Barr might walk away. These are all the things I'm trying to avoid, like you are.
Love to have you on hydrogen's side, Jim. It's awesome. Thank you.
On hydrogen. I'm a green hydrogen guy. I don't think it's a fuel cell. I think it's a fuel cell. Mark Russell, CEO of Nikola.